and welcome back to the Passionate Pioneer podcast with myself. You know me, I'm Beth, I'm known as the Passionate Pioneer, and today my guest is Melissa O'Connell. Welcome, Melissa.
Hi, Beth. Thank you so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it. It's fun to be here.
Yeah, it's great. I love these interviews, and I love being live because it's authentic. You know, our audience gets our authenticity. They get to know us personally. And
yes, I love that about
really nice. It's a really nice way to connect. Yeah. So hi everybody. Let's repeat my motto together. Empowered women, empowered lives. And this podcast is your doorway to spiritual freedom, passion, clarity, and confidence. So let me introduce Melissa. So as a former corporate warrior, 20 years in digital e-commerce, tech and operations, Melissa traded spreadsheets for self-discovery. By blending her artistic spirit, coaching expertise, and natural empathy, Melissa guides her clients to embrace their gifts, navigate life and work with ease, and stay positive, productive, and profitable. Helping empaths lead joyful, authentic lives is Melissa's passion and purpose. Ready to unleash your inner light? Let's go. Okay, so welcome, Melissa, and let's start with some of your story. So what initially sparked your passion? It's normally a journey of discovery. It's not normally something that you knew. So tell us the foundations of your story.
Yes, and for me that's the case, absolutely. So, you know, actually it started very young for me. So I'll start there. You know, I was born an empath, grew up as a highly sensitive child, was very artistic, and I think the artistic part of me helped me process all my feelings and how I was. And you know, back then, age myself here, but we didn't talk about, you know, being an empath or highly sensitive or anything like that. It was just
right.
I felt very different. I didn't know. I didn't have people around me who understood. And so that was a little tough. You know, so growing up that way and just doing my best to kind of you know, express my feelings and process them. And then really wasn't, you know, I was really encouraged to go more of a practical route in my career and not necessarily go into the arts. Again, there's some thoughts there that are like, that's not the way to build a career, unfortunately. And I thankfully some of those things are going away now. And I think me have this conversation is helping with that. But you know, I ended up kicking off a corporate career. You know, I went into advertising, and sort of creative, but practical still, right? So trying to blend the two lives and really trying living as an empath in these two worlds, right? Of, you know, knowing that I was different, but then trying to fit into this other world. And you know, when I you know, got out of college into my career in my mid to late 20s, I really kind of hit a wall. I still didn't know who I was, you know, what was going on with me, and I was really unhappy, you know, with and that's where I had to stop and start doing some self-discovery. I did have a person in my life at the time in my work who actually is a life coach now. She went on to that, but she encouraged me to, like, you know, dig in, find out about yourself, like do things that make you happy. And so that was really the first point in my life in that kind of early career where I had an aha moment, and I started looking around to find out, you know, who I was. And that's when, thankfully, things like being an empath and being highly sensitive, those sort of were starting to trickle into mainstream. And I was able to, you know, do some research. You know, thankfully, there's a lot of books out there on Amazon and the internet and things. And I found this identity of you know, oh, I am an empath. I am a highly sensitive person. There's a term for this. And there are gifts that come with that, by the way. And I recognize myself in those. And there are also a set of unique challenges that come with being a person like that. And what that did for me, at least, was made me feel not so alone. And it gave me an identity, and it gave me a place to jump off from. And I ended up, you know, continuing with my career, but now I knew a little bit more about myself. And what that did for me was caused me to start saying, how can I use what I have, my gifts and powers, to work for me and offer those out, in my work, in my life. And that's where, it's really important to me as a coach for empathic, highly sensitive people to recognize your gifts and embrace those, right? Because you're
Right.
bringing those to people.
Yeah. So let's touch on that. So
Yeah.
you talked about being an empath. So for our audience listening, describe what that is. And I mean, that must have been quite, in a very noisy corporate world in the
Yes.
city, I imagine,
Yeah.
it is quite horrendous for an empath who's very sensitive. So
Yeah.
talk us through how it is for an empath. What is an empath?
Yeah, sure. An empath, if you think of it, even a highly sensitive person is somebody who is very stimulated by everything going on around them, whether it's situations, it's noises, it's lights, it's feelings in conversations and in crowds, things like that. You have a lot of feelings. An empath even does more with that, and you can't help but internalize those and absorb those feelings and almost mirror them back. So you might walk into a room and there's a real tense, ness there, and you might not have been tense going in, but by the time you leave that room, you feel very tense because it's an
Right.
empath absorb that
You've
energy.
absorbed everything, right? Yes.
Yes. And like you said, living in the city, I really had to start learning what happens is you start losing yourself as an empath because you really are absorbing everybody else. Then you become everyone else and you don't know who you are. And
Right.
that is what I was going through in that mid sort of early career crisis I just explained, which was like, I don't know what I'm doing and who I am. And so it was really starting to build an identity and grounding myself in who I am, and then learning how to separate myself from everything around. Because as an empath, you can't help but be that way. We are that way, but there are a lot of methods, points of view, etc., which is what I help coach that you can use to help protect yourself and feel better about who you are as a person and separate from everyone else around you.
Right. So let's talk about that start of that journey then. So who helped you? Who inspired you? Who were your mentors? You did mention somebody that came
I
into your life that was now a life coach.
I
And we
did have
are both life coaches. So tell us who
yeah,
inspired you and motivated, and how important it is to
uh,
have that network while
absolutely.
you're, transforming into your identity.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. So yeah, my dear friend Stephanie, she's also a coach and she does a lot of corporate coaching now too. And she was my boss at the time, and I was literally going in for a review with her of just where I was at in my working career at the time, and I had worked for her for a year or two. And I remember I just burst out crying because I was just so unhappy. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to get in trouble, right? Because you're in your early 20s, you're working in New York in the corporate, you can't show your true self. That was sort of what it was like back then for
Right.
me. And she did the opposite. I mean, she was so encouraging. She was so kind and empathic. She's, very empathic herself. And she helped me see that, I had another way that I could live, and don't let all this crush you, and keep going, and so she really helped me through that. She was my first mentor. She's still a friend. I always tell her how much she helped get me
Mm.
kind of back into a place of mental and emotional well-being, and kick that off. And then, as you say, what I found too, not only through learning to use my own gifts and powers that way, but also how important, especially as an empath, to find a tribe. So as I was going through,
Right.
my continuing in my corporate career, I was already starting to see people around me who were like me, and I started connecting with them more. And it just really helped. And that was the thing that really kept me going in my career for so many years, was being able to find those people who were like me or who needed my help or mentorship, or we helped each other. And I always encourage that with my clients too, is find your tribe, and they will help you through. And there are people who are like you, so you don't feel so alone anymore, and you can
Right.
share, practices with each other that help you through situations. And so
Because I think that's true, isn't it? We do feel alone when we're going through something. We're like, oh,
absolutely.
we're the only person that feels like that. And then and then you're like,
Yeah.
oh, other people feel like this too. But it's
Yes,
nice it validates your own feelings. It's like, I'm not going crazy, it's there
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
there are other
Yeah.
people like me, right?
Yeah. And maybe they can even help you. Like, I've been there before. Here's the ladder. Like, I'll help
Right,
you out. Yeah,
right.
exactly. So, And it does, as an empath, sometimes it's hard to reach out, but if you notice somebody who's like you, or, just have a side chat with them. That's how I connected with so many people. And I made so many dear friends because of that out of my
Yeah.
corporate career, who I'm still connected with. So, which has been great.
Yeah, networks,
Yeah.
fantastic. It's funny because I'm all about communities, and I think that that's the way the world is going. Social media is kind of, it's kind of, it's touch and go. Literally touch the screen, they watch it for like 1 second and they go, right? That's it. It's literally, there's no way. I think it's going to become more of a barrier, social media. So it's so important to build, a tribe somewhere, like, somewhere, online, these podcasts, email communities, Facebook communities, something like that, where you're together with like-minded people. And there's lots of groups available locally, in person, in your community, online. You can find lots of groups. And it's just so important these days to, we're looking for that connection, aren't we? We're
the authentic connection.
The social media is just disconnected. I wouldn't call it social media, more like anti-social media, but that doesn't mean that it's all bad, because it can be used for good things. And there are some really great communities online.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there, when you the doom scrolling, it's very much touch and go, right?
And a lot, there's so much noise out there.
It's very noisy, right? It's very noisy. So it's really important you find a group where you can find some stability.
Yes.
And you can ground yourself, and you can find like minds, and you can say, oh, right, okay, oh, thanks, well, let's have a chat, right? And they can and connect with people, right? And that's what people are looking for, especially after COVID, right? It's just that we're looking for that. It was a bit of a wake-up call for humanity, I think, and well needed in my opinion. Right? Well needed.
I feel like the pendulum is still hopefully swinging in that direction,
right?
As we learn, the goods and bads and ins and outs of really what social media and being online so much is doing to all of us. So hopefully learning to use its powers for good.
Right. So tell me then, so you're doing this, you're in the corporate world, and you're deciding what to do, and you're discovering this, learning more about yourself as an empathetic person. So what was the biggest leap of faith you took to follow your heart?
I'd say at the time when I was still in my career, it was stepping in and embracing who I was and actually saying it out loud, which I hadn't really done before. I'd kind of kept it secret to the people who knew me, who were also empaths, or like, my old boss that I had spoke about earlier, Stephanie. But what I started doing, and what I help, my clients do too, is being myself in all the places in my life, including work, and no longer having this sort of separation of I'm one person here and one person there. And pitching really the gifts that I had as an empath as my strengths, whether it was a new role I was in, or I was being promoted, or, I stayed with one company for like 14 years. So I kind of moved and, all around, but it was me pitching, like, I can help teams collaborate. I can have difficult conversations with empathy. I am a great mentor to my team, and so, started just talking out loud to the point where I started owning, like, I'm an empath. That's who I am. I would just say that to people when I was meeting them, and I was no longer afraid of that. I think there was a fear. And I think in our culture, at least, here in the US, there was this culture of, you had to be hard. And again, a different person at work, and like, you can't share your feelings.
It's that corporate masculine energy, isn't it? It changes us. And I totally resonate with that.
Well, and I think, and
as an ex-corporate person, right?
Right. And you felt that, me, going into my career, I felt that being told to me in an unspoken way, like, don't show your feelings, don't, and for an empath, that's like really hard, right? So no wonder I was so lost. But I was almost a reverse rebellion, if you will, of like, I'm gonna be me. and I'm going to be passionate about things, and, you know, I'm going to be that touchy-feely person. And if you, you know, use me for that, you know, and if that didn't work or resonate, then I would move on, you know, to something else. But I think, you know, having that courage to do that, and what that really did then was help me be me, like I said, in all places of my life. And it helped me, you know, not, I wasn't drained of energy as often as I was, because I was trying to be something different. I
Right.
was more
Trying to
productive
fit
because,
into a box of
yes, exactly.
society, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't have to take the mask off and put it back on and like figure out, you know, navigate. So, you know, I felt more fulfilled too. And then I was more productive and I was more successful at work because
Yeah.
I was being me. And then I could just focus on the problems that I was solving or the people I was helping, versus trying to like not be me and then be me and then trying to fit work in and do all of that. It just was too much. And that's where I really, again, help my clients, wherever they may be, whether they're entrepreneurs or they're still in the corporate world or in between. But let's be all of us
Yeah.
and embrace who we are, and then celebrate those gifts and
Yeah. I love
say,
that.
I have to offer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
step into them. Yeah. Because
I
that's
love the
what,
fact that you said you own it. You know, I decided I was going to own it and
yeah. I
own who
mean,
I am. And that's
yeah.
very brave, because some people, you know, they are in the shadows. They live, you know, and especially as an empath, if you you take on everybody else's feelings and
Yeah.
everybody else's identity, and you kind of get lost in
Sure.
the,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
the everyday world.
Well, along with that, though, to your point, came some more responsibility that I had to take myself with protecting my energy, you know, and like you were just saying, prepping myself in a lot of cases to go into some of these situations and conversations in the corporate world. As we know it, it can be a
Mhm.
tough place, you know, day to day, and you're in constant meetings and you're
Yeah.
meeting a lot of people. And so I had to start, and that's really where my discipline and techniques and methods from what I use in my coaching now started deriving from, was
Right.
me
Yeah, from
learning.
your own experience and your own methods that you put
Yeah.
in place for you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
otherwise you're wrecked at the end of the day, right? You know, so so I had to really, you know, just like getting up and going to the gym or brushing your teeth, it has to be something that you're doing every single day for yourself, because you know you're this sort of unique person, you know, who has these needs, and so that's where the practice really
And
came
it's
from.
not easy, is it? That get, you know, every day it's a
Yeah,
choice. Every day you choose, I own my identity. I
yeah,
am you know,
yeah. I have to
and
protect my energy. I have to be
yeah,
braver about setting boundaries. I mean, it's still
right.
hard for me, some of this stuff. It really is, but if again you keep your eye on, like, I know I'll feel better and I'll live better and I'll be more fulfilled if I do these things, then it gets easier in the day to day, you know. And
Yeah.
then, and the more you practice is the easier it gets. I always tell my clients that too. At first it feels like you're trying to remember all these things, but when you're doing it every single day and protecting your energy, you know, and making sure that you're remembering who you are and loving yourself and setting those boundaries, it becomes easier. And a year or two passes and
Ooh.
you're so much better, you know.
Loving yourself. I like that.
Yeah. Well, and so much of, I think, for an empath, setting boundaries is so difficult. Saying no, disappointing someone, not overworking, like not overgiving, because we feel so much. So when someone else is upset with us or let down or disappointed, we feel that energy. And so we're uncomfortable with it. And so we have just yesed people and yesed our
Well, it's
life
that
away.
high achieving, you know,
Yeah.
that high achiever in us, isn't it? You know, a lot of the professional women in careers, they're high achievers. You know,
Yeah. And
they've
it,
got,
there
you
is,
know,
we all
it's
are.
very
And you
difficult. They need to learn
Mhm.
certain
Yeah,
techniques to help them, you know,
yeah,
to protect their energy.
yeah, yeah, because then otherwise there's nothing left, and then you can't focus and actually get
You
done
can't give from an empty cup, right? You've got
here.
to
Yeah,
do something to fill that cup. You've got to do something for you.
absolutely. Yeah. That's
It's
where the self-love comes in, of like,
yeah,
love yourself enough that you learn to say no, and start learning to
right.
be okay with people maybe being disappointed about that, but you're not responsible for them. Like,
Yeah,
that's their journey. You
correct.
love you and you're responsible for your journey. And again,
Yeah.
it's that separating yourself from the other,
It's
which is
saying yes to the things that bring you joy. The things, if you think about it, makes you smile. Go and do it.
Yeah, yeah, and
right?
that's how you replenish your own energy.
It's a good indicator, really. How do you feel in your body? If you don't, if it feels like, then don't do it, right? So just say no.
Yeah, what's your intuition telling you? Like, listen to
Right.
you, you
Right.
know.
Listen to
Yeah,
yourself, right? Which is
and
really
that's
difficult in a noisy world. So you've got
yes,
to
yeah,
put in some tools, got to have some tools and techniques that you do ground yourself and you do protect your energy and you do take care of yourself. You put boundaries in. I
yeah.
agree with all of that, Melissa.
I
Yeah.
always I recommend to my clients that you bookend your day where you start in the morning, you have some sort of a grounding technique, and everyone's different, sitting quietly or being in nature or writing, and you do it at the end of the day too. And there's some things in between, of course, that you can do, but that way at both ends of your day, you're coming back to yourself. You're remembering
Mm.
who you are, before you start the next day, before you start that day and
Yeah.
the next day, So yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
so
really funny because yesterday I was at the beach all day and it's very hot in Italy at the moment, and it was so nice. I mean, when I went into the sea, because it's not the ocean this side, it's the sea, right?
oh right, right,
Your
right.
side of the world, it's the
Yeah.
ocean, right? This side of the world, it's the sea. So I went into the sea. It was like walking into a bath, to be honest. It was lovely, but I had to
Yeah.
go out way deep to get to feel any kind of
Yeah.
coolness. And then I just lay right back out and put my head in the water, covered my ears, covered out the noise.
Yep,
I'm
shut it
lucky
all
because
out.
I can go in the weekday and not a weekend because the weekend is very busy there. But I go in the week and I literally just do a star shape in the water and I just float and I
Wonderful.
meditate.
Amazing. And
Yeah.
water is so powerful.
Oh God, it was amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. And
Wow.
I don't get to do that very often. Um, just because with the winter months and
Yeah.
the spring
Yeah.
and it's
You're
cold,
busy.
the water's cold, right? So it's like, yeah, and it was just so lovely just to take, that moment. I spent most of the day in the water and a lot of it meditating, connecting with my
Yeah.
guides and asking questions and just clearing my mind and my thoughts and, filling up my cup.
Yes. And do you feel like today you feel
Oh,
replenished
I
and you
felt so much lighter. It
clear?
was so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
amazing. That's
yeah.
so good that you do that. Yeah.
Anything you can do, really,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. It doesn't
anything
have
you
to
can
be
do, like you said, a walk in nature, walk in
that.
the garden, sit in the park,
Yeah.
read a book, do some journaling, try and, you know, cancel out the noise of the world, anything you can do. I've also got one of those coloring books I bought. It's like an
Yeah.
adult coloring
Yep.
book
Art. It's such
with
a good
color
way.
pencils, and you just color in what you want, and
Yeah.
you can just sit for hours just
Yeah.
coloring things, but it completely clears your mind.
Yeah, yeah, it is amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
we are way too connected, as we were talking about earlier, to
yeah,
everything around us right now, and
yeah.
you have to make the time to go do
Mm.
it. But when you do, as you were just saying about your yesterday, it's so worth it,
Oh yeah,
and it's amazing how much that can move you forward by doing that versus you
yeah,
just having to trudge through every day and not doing that for yourself. So
yeah, yeah.
that's so lovely that you had such a great day yesterday.
I know. Well, I've been doing this event. So my event is ongoing this week, this free event. So I'm in the Facebook group, there's emails, I'm answering questions, and I need to fill up my own cup, right?
Yes,
Because I'm
yes,
giving a lot
yeah.
of energy at the
Yeah.
moment. I'm giving value and it's all good. I mean, it's all good.
Yeah.
But I need some time. I need some time back for me. So yesterday was my time. I'm like,
Yes.
yes. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. That's so amazing.
So tell me about, because we all have them, tell me about any significant doubts or fears when you
Yeah.
started this journey, and how did you overcome them, Melissa?
Yeah, yeah. I think, in my while I was in my career, it was definitely, can I handle, as an empath, can I continue to handle the pressures and the situations I would encounter, especially as, you tend to, if you're, in the career long enough, you tend to move up or you tend to get bigger teams or more responsibility. Those were things in the back of my mind always, right? Because I knew the energy drain and the things like that. And that's when I really had to double down about taking care of myself and setting boundaries, and also using my voice to tell my leadership and in my teams, like, this is what I need, this is how I work, this is how you'll get the best out of me. So that really pushed me again to even more own who I was. And then, I felt a pull again. I got my coaching certification about 8 years ago. So I've been a certified coach for quite some time, but I was still in the corporate world. After I had my daughter, I just felt this pull to do that, and everyone always came to me anyway. So it was like, why not get certified and like
That's
help
going to charge them, right?
yeah, exactly. So then it's like, and so the next leap of faith came, so I continued in my career, and like I said, it really became about connecting with my tribe and mentoring other women, as we were talking earlier, like me, and men and women, who are like me and empaths and things like that, and helping them through managing, their career and the challenges and the pressures and all of that. So that's really kind of became a core of what I was doing in addition to my actual jobs.
Right.
And then so the coaching certification and training came in really handy in that stuff.
Yeah, 'cause you had a career. You were now starting a new career in a career, right?
Exactly,
And this is
like tucked in
this
there.
is what I say.
Yeah,
You don't have to do anything
yeah.
drastic. Like you don't have to leave.
No,
People they want to write a book.
they'll
They
find you.
leave everything and they're like, right, I'm going to write my book. And then they've got blank space because they're not doing anything that
Yes,
motivates or
yeah,
inspires them to
yeah.
give
You
them
have to
the
be
stuff.
living your life still.
Right.
Yeah,
You've got to keep
yeah.
the energy moving, right? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And so I continued for, and my daughter just turned 9 yesterday, and about a year ago I
Oh,
stepped away from my corporate job. And partly because I wanted to be, more present for her, because, my work was taking, a lot of time
right.
away. I only have my one daughter, and we were talking, you have this one life, and, it's you have to enjoy the things in your life.
Right.
So but then also the leap of faith of moving in and saying, I'm going to do the coaching full time, and building a business, which is like, that's been a challenge. I'd always worked for others and helped them build, but not ever done
Mm.
it myself. And I'm
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
the amount of work and energy and that goes into that behind the scenes,
Yeah. Yeah.
not just us on this, podcast, which is so fun to do, but it's all the other stuff, right, that comes
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
And so that was a leap of faith as well, and partnering with my husband, and all of the work that's coming along with that. But anytime I feel like we're making a change, and this goes for empath or not, but I was on one path for so long, and you make a change, it's going to take a little time to build the momentum up going in that other
Mm-hmm.
direction. And that's where I'm at right now. And I'm just put head down, saying, what I believe in, being who I am, showing up in places like this, and talking to people, and coaching people. And I know that, my life is moving now in this direction, and it's
Yeah,
never too
that's
late.
nice. No, it's never too late, is it? It's never
Yeah,
too late to make that change. But when you do, it's better to do it in small increments, small steps,
yeah,
because
yeah,
it
yeah.
feels very unsafe. If you've been on this path for so long,
Oh,
you've
absolutely.
got to. But I love the fact you talked about some things you've got to double down on.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
They really are. I mean, for me, it was my voice,
yeah,
because I grew up in an era of, our voice wasn't important. We had to stay silent. Your
yeah.
opinion wasn't wanted. It took me a long, long time for me to have the courage to, to speak and be online and see myself on video and, talk. And then, and I did that through teaching. I left the corporate career and went into teaching, and that gave me the courage
Oh, good.
to start teaching in
Yeah,
groups and
yeah.
speak
Oh,
to
that's amazing.
people
Yeah,
properly, and
yeah,
um
yeah.
even
And
as a
now
manager, I was always motivating and inspiring my team, and I had group meetings, but I wanted to do this
yeah,
like full time,
right,
so
right. On
yeah,
a global scale, because
yeah.
I US and you're in Italy, so you're like,
Exactly,
I,
right. And then, this is one of the benefits, the bonuses of
yeah,
COVID, is that
yeah,
online was just thrown upon us. And, and I
yeah,
think we were kind of dabbling with technology before. We were doing it a little bit, and,
yeah.
shall I go online? I don't know. Shall I join this? I don't know. And then we were in for
Ruin it.
100%, right?
Yeah,
In.
yeah. And I love too that
Yeah,
you have a podcast, and you're just saying you're looking for your voice, and it's like, well, you are like on the stage, you've built the platform
yeah,
for not only yourself but all these women, and such as
yeah,
myself, but to have the voice. I
yeah.
just love I
Yeah,
love that.
I love it. It brings me so much joy to just, as I said,
Yeah, yeah,
before, when we were chatting before we joined the live, it gives
yeah,
me so much joy to to facilitate, you know,
Yes.
so other women can have a voice and tell their story, because it's not often they get to tell their story. They're coaches, mentors, healers, you know, they've done so many different things in their life. They've had so many different experiences, and you know, it's good for people to hear those stories,
Yeah. Yeah,
right? And
absolutely.
be,
Yeah,
yeah, I
connect
love
with
it. I love it.
not alone. Yeah, yeah.
So
What
what do you think about the sacrifices that you've made along the way? What did you decide what was worth keeping and what was worth letting go?
yeah, and that's, and I think I would say the biggest probably is, having stepped away from my career, having been in it for so long. And, I gained a lot of other skills on top of, just being in the empath there. And also, I don't work, and it's a little isolating, as we were saying earlier about working really online, and I don't work with, big teams anymore like I used to. And I don't have my own kind of team of, that I'm mentoring. And I do miss that. So that was a sacrifice. I try to make up for that by staying in touch, and connecting with all of those people still. And I try to balance that with having more family time now to kind of fill that gap, if you will.
Right.
And that's what's most important to me, of course. And so, but the sacrifice there, and there's a part of me that was like, well, you work so hard, like are you really going to walk away from this? But the thing is, I still use those skills in
Yeah,
addition to the empathic powers that I had.
yeah,
Now they're helping me in a different way, and actually I'm starting to also actually work back with corporate companies to help them have this message internally for their employees and support them, so
right.
it's all coming full circle. And I think it just, whatever, even if you
No,
change
no,
direction, it
nothing
all,
is wasted.
yes, exactly. Oh, you just took the words out of my mouth. Nothing is wasted. Yeah. You can always use it all,
Yeah,
it's nothing is by accident. And so just reminding myself of that when I'm thinking about, oh, I got to get online today and do my posting and my social media marketing and my emailing and, all the stuff that's tough about starting a new business and running with it. I remind myself, of why I'm doing it, and that I'm still that same person that was capable and had done all that I did in my corporate career. So
very good.
yeah.
So, what about practical tips or techniques that you use to stay motivated and inspired, especially when you get external pressures or
Yeah.
expectations? Right, you were talking, you know, in corporate, we have a team of people that can do it. When you're an entrepreneur, suddenly
Yeah.
you have to do everything yourself.
Yeah. Which is also a pressure in its own regard. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was thinking about this when I saw that we were going to chat through it.
Because
I
you've also
think.
got a family as well, haven't you? So you've got that to balance as well, right? So,
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and my daughter is only 9, so she still needs a lot, from me in a different way. Not a baby, but still, she still has a ton of things going on. And what I do is I make sure again that I'm at least once or twice a day connecting back with myself, and remembering who I am, remembering, just that I'm separate from all of this other stuff going on. I'm separate from mom and wife and doing laundry, and like that's what I'm doing now at home. Or I'm
right?
separate
Yeah.
coach, like always giving as you were to others. I'm separate from that. And just letting myself be for a minute, having that, as you said, that quiet time, or that, like, alone time, really replenishes me. A lot of times I love, and I don't know if you can see my backyard here, my husband is my gardener. He does a beautiful job of our yard, and I'll go sit out there and I'll replenish through nature.
Can you
uh,
send him to me?
yeah.
Because I'm trying to find the
Let's
time to get out into the, but it's
you.
too much. I've got too much land. Maybe a bit of a big
Uh,
project for him.
you want to hire it? Yeah, it was a gardener. Yeah. No,
It
I
is
mean,
beautiful though, isn't it? But beautiful to have that, right?
yeah, it is. Yeah, to like be able to go out in that. So that's one technique I use a lot. And then also just taking care of myself health wise and exercise wise. Like, so those are really 3 things that I do when I feel myself getting lost, or like trying to run and hide from everyone, and just like, be in my own life and be me in my life. Those are some things that I do. I'm like, okay, I need to reconnect. I need to go sit by myself. And my husband and my daughter know, like, okay, she's out there. She's like having her
Having
downtime.
mom time.
Yes, yes. They know I need it, and sometimes that's a good thing too. Use your outside voice. Tell those around you, not just
Yeah.
maybe your bosses at work, but your family, or whoever's around you, your friends too. Like, this is what you need as an empath. Like, and if I act a certain way or you don't hear from me, like, I don't text back right away. That's one of the things too,
Mm,
techniques. I give
mm.
myself time and space before I text someone back, because I don't, that pressure, that's even a little pressure, but still that pressure. I'm like, I need some space between me and that outside pressure.
Mm.
So whatever you can do to kind of rebalance and recenter before you go off and do something pressure wise, big or small, is always a good thing. So otherwise, you're just acting or living blindly, right? And you're just being pulled along for the ride, and you're like,
Yeah.
there's no you in there. So
Well, yeah, I mean, even not even as an empath, but
yeah,
just in
yeah,
general, I think we need to prioritize self-care and,
yeah. We're not
maintain
robots.
our, try and find some work-life balance, because I think it's missing.
Yeah,
Melissa, I think
yeah,
it's
uh,
missing
yeah,
in many people's lives, the work-life balance, right?
yeah,
We're all about work and we forget about us. We're all about work and other people, actually. Let's just say
yeah.
that. We're all about
Exactly.
work and other
Yes,
people, but we put
yes,
ourselves last on the list.
yeah.
And,
We
and
are.
it's wrong. We can't keep saying yes to other people. We have to, have that cut-off
Yeah.
point and those boundaries where we say, okay, today is my day. I'm going to do what I want.
Yes.
Put
Yeah.
yourself on, I always say, put yourself on the calendar. Where are you on the calendar?
Yeah.
You're doing
Exactly.
this, you're doing this, you're doing,
Yeah.
where's,
Yeah.
where's you on the
Yeah.
calendar?
Yeah.
I don't see you
Exactly.
on there, right? Let's get your name on the calendar, right? What time are you going to block out for you?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be the cornerstone of your own life. Like,
Yeah,
it is your life.
yeah.
Oh, I've been there. I've been there. Literally, like, hiding in a room somewhere trying to just find me again.
Yeah, the
So
only time they get is when they go to the toilet. That's they get 5 minutes while they're in the toilet, not
uh,
even, right? And it's just like
yeah, that's not okay. Yeah,
it's that's
exactly.
that's not that's
For
not
sleep.
that's not personal time.
No, a different kind of personal time. But yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You have to put yourself first. I'm hoping that's reversing, and us having these conversations and continuing to say that. And I'm on LinkedIn. And so, and like with COVID, I think it has brought about these conversations. I think
Yeah,
people are leaning more into it. But, one thing I will say, like, for instance, my husband is working more remote than he used to. He's
right.
still in the office sometimes, but not. So it's like, they're tiptoeing into it. But I think all of us collectively need to keep saying we need more. I mean, we're just barely there, right?
Yeah.
At the amount that we should be. And I know that the type of work we do, it's our jobs to remind people that you need more of it. But I'm hoping that it's going in the right direction.
Well, funnily enough, I read an article about 6 months ago, and it was an experiment that they did about a 4-day working week.
Yes.
And there were
Oh,
a couple of companies that did it.
yeah.
But I think they were in the UK actually.
Mhm. Yeah.
And they did this experiment where they just said, okay, for you just work 4 working days. And there were lots of
Yeah.
companies that were like, oh, I'm not doing that. That's crazy.
Right.
And
Right.
and but the results were incredible. The company made more profit, the productivity was up, the teams were happier, the company culture was better,
Yeah.
and people were happier because they had more free time to do what
Yeah.
they want, and things
Yeah.
like artificial intelligence now are going to free up a lot of work that
Yeah.
that you
The
just
busy work. Yeah.
mundane work, you could call
Yeah.
it, right?
Right.
And free up your time. And I think that you're right, we need to have you know more free time, more smart working, more
Yes.
freedom of
Yeah.
choice.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the one thing about corporate and being an empath. I don't miss that routine. That's really hard for an empathic person,
Right.
especially, but for everybody, right? But to have the same, or like have the same routine every week. Ours was kind of a weekly routine, and then the next week it went over, in the industry I was in. But I was just,
Right.
like, oh my gosh, yeah. But yeah, yeah. To your point, like, I think when people are rested, like you said, they feel like their lives are their own, and they
Yeah.
can make their own choices. And of course, their productivity is going to go up. And to people, I'm so glad you brought that up, because sometimes I do get a little pushback here and there from different people with points of view, and it's like, but we've never tried it, because people say, oh, that won't work, or that, but you've never tried it. You never tried to have a different take on it. So why will it not work? You don't even know that it won't work, you know?
Right, right.
So,
But
yeah.
I think they're afraid, the company cultures, because they've been doing it for so long.
Yeah,
It's very
exactly.
masculine, you know,
Yeah.
corporate. Oh, we need to be at work 9 till 5. You know, where are you going
Yeah.
at 4 o'clock? You know, and yeah,
It's just
it's
not feasible. And
not
especially,
healthy either. It's not healthy, right?
yeah, exactly. And especially when it comes to parenting, I think that's helping to like move the needle on this conversation.
Yeah.
As in the US at least, especially as men slowly are starting to get more parental leave and things like that, is starting to say like we need flexibility. You know, we need a life that we again not living a work life and then a home life. It needs to be a little more integrated in a positive way. You know, not where you're working during your life, but you know,
Yeah,
you can have
talking about that, if you look at the Northern European, Scandinavian countries, they're doing a lot for, you know, the work-life balance, and they're
their
giving
model. Yeah. Yeah.
parental what's
Leave
it called,
and yeah.
parental leave
Yeah.
for the fathers as well, you know, and
Yeah.
the mothers. And then I noticed that in America, what do you get as mothers? How much time do you get?
It depends on where you're at, but it's like in the location I'm at now, it's about 3 months, three
It's
and a
not
half.
enough, is it, to bond with the baby? I mean, you
Yeah.
need, I
Or
think they
3
give at least 1 year or something, and then they
oh
give
my
the
god.
father more than 3 months. But I think
Yeah.
that's really healthy
Yeah. I
to
agree.
promote
Yeah.
families.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And just you know, having had my own daughter, I'm like that. Luckily, I in my work situation, I was able to take more time off, and some companies are different than others, which is great. But yeah, I think we need to definitely look at that. And that's another, it's another piece of this bigger puzzle that we're talking
Right,
about, right?
they're wondering why the statistics of children are going down, why young people don't want children. Well, they haven't got the time. You know, the
Yeah, it's
economy's in the toilet around the world, right? So they can't afford it. They don't have the time. That means,
yes.
oh, they've
They're
got to
not
sacrifice a holiday because they've got to take care of the baby. They don't want it. And we've got to encourage,
yes,
you know,
yes,
they're the next generation, right?
yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
That's
It
we could do a whole other
yes.
podcast just on that, I think.
Let me know when, and then I'll be there. Yeah, no, the mom, I can tell you. Yeah, I mean that's again part of the reason that that helped me decide to step away and do something more flexible that I could do and work around, you know, my life and my daughter and our family life. So it is
Very
good
good.
though that you and I do have, and everybody has this option. You just, you know, eh, once you decide to make the change
You've got to
and
choose. It's a choice.
yeah, exactly. But
You
everyone
do
can
have more choices than you think.
exactly. And there's so many entrepreneurs out there. I know you work and know with and know so many, and me too now.
Yeah.
And there is a way to figure it out if this is a direction you want to go in. So
Just doesn't have to be done overnight.
yes, exactly,
People, it
exactly.
doesn't have to be done overnight.
Yeah,
Just take it
yeah. It takes
slow.
time. It takes time. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, take it
But it
slow.
can be
Yeah.
done absolutely, no matter what your age. So.
So let me ask you, what are some things that you're still learning about yourself and your goals?
Yeah, I think definitely always still learning. I'm the first one to always admit that. I think, you know, I'm learning how far I can take my voice. I know you're a big proponent of that with this platform, and learning to live uh and speak bigger and further outside of the circles that I've been in, you know, being in the corporate world where I was, you know, I was comfortable and I was able to do it there, and then a little bit now with my coaching. But again, you know, having a bigger impact and stepping into that and having that voice and being myself and not being afraid to kind of show up in this other arena that I'm in now as a coach, and that you know, I do have a message,
Right,
and the only way it's going to get out there is if I put it out there. You
right.
know,
So we talk
and
about
so
it, and you own, you said, like, you know, you
yeah,
own yourself, you embrace yourself, right?
so it's been a lot of saying yes to things that maybe I never would have before. You know, I was talking
Right.
about how I've been able to do a few of these, and thank you so much for having me on. You know, the podcast, and I've been doing some writing and some like other things for different groups, and now hopefully getting more helping the corporate world. So I'm branching out into these areas that I really have never done this stuff before. You
Oh, I
know,
can tell you, when I was you're talking about this podcast, when I was started as an entrepreneur, there's no way in a million years I would have thought that I was going to be doing a podcast because
never know
I
that now.
hadn't found my voice.
Yeah, no, you're doing an amazing job, and I'm so thankful to be here. And
Oh,
I never know that, but that's the thing, when you stick with it and you keep going and you
right.
believe in it. I know how much you believe in what you're doing, and
Yeah.
I can hear the passion coming through as we were talking earlier. Then I feel like the universe finds a way. You find a way in partnership with the universe, and
Yeah.
it starts unfolding for
Oh,
you.
it's all about co-creating with spirit.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
If you're
again, that's
going
what,
in you're going in the right direction,
yeah.
you'll know because doors will open. And if you're going in the wrong direction, doors will close. It's really as simple. It's not so simple, but it really is simple as that, right?
Yeah, completely agree with you. Yeah. Yeah. So learning that, because in the corporate world I had this sort of concrete set of skills, and and I knew where my path was, and it's like I knew what could be next. And now, I am having a leap of faith, and I'm co-creating, and I'm saying, okay, here we go. Show me what's next, and I'll just show up and I'll do it,
Right.
and that's where I'm at right now, and learning to trust that. So it's
Yes.
been an amazing journey. Always learning.
Trust, believe, receive. Trust, believe, receive.
Yes,
But you
I
got to
love
let go of you got to let go of that ego. You just sort of say, show me,
that. Yep,
show me.
exactly. Yeah.
Go on, I dare you, show me.
Yes.
Just
Yeah. Amazing.
make it into a joke, right? Just show me,
Yeah. And have faith, and
and
just
have faith. That's it.
moving with inspired action, forward. So
And
yeah.
inspired action is about the inspired action as well. You can't just sit there on the sofa and just go,
Oh yeah, you do have to
it's
take
not
action.
here yet. What's happening?
Yeah, it's fortunately it doesn't just, hit you like lightning. But yeah, you got to put yourself out there for things to come to, but
Yeah,
it will happen.
absolutely. And then the path will open, right? Then the path will open. You start taking this energy. You've got to keep moving. You've got to keep
Yeah.
the energy
Yeah.
moving, right?
Yes.
So how would you define success in the context of your dreams and goals?
I think, for me, it's changed, it really has. And I'll give a comparison, because in the corporate world, I know there was like, I wanted a certain title, or I wanted to be in a certain place at the company or at a certain company,
Right.
And it's gotten less. I don't want to say that's superficial. 'Cause I don't mean that. I appreciate people who are, that is their goal and they're still there. I think though it's gotten a little broader, or more of a feeling versus a title and a thing.
Right.
I want to have a positive state of mind as often as I can when I go through my days. And I want to try to capture as much as I can every day, memory wise, and living in the moment. So those are very different things.
Yeah.
I want to say they're more feeling. They're more almost spiritual. They're more um, not necessarily physical successes that I need. Just feeling good about myself at the end of the day,
And
that I've
it
shared.
is, spirituality. People say, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's all woo woo." No, it's not.
Oh,
All
I'm.
it is,
I love
it's about coming back to you, and
yours
it's
and
about
being
knowing
being
how
a
you
human.
feel and tuning into
Yeah.
your own feelings and how does your body feel about this. What are you feeling? What are you sensing?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we just have that natural intuition. It's in us. It's in
And
you.
it
Like,
is
it's
already, and
in
so many of us
you.
are away from it because we've been,
Yeah.
the world disconnects us, or our life does. But
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. So that's where I'm at now. Yes, to your point, I'm
Very
more in
good.
me now, and like, how am I feeling, and using that as an indicator of success.
Excellent.
Yeah. So which is been, again, a learning experience, but also just feels so much better. So
So
for me,
what's the most unexpected benefit you've gained from pursuing this journey?
yeah. I think it's feeling like I've returned to myself, but in a better, stronger, um, more informed, courageous way, I guess. I'm still me. I remember the me that I was then, but now I am living the life I want to live, but as me. And so I almost just felt like I took this whole detour to come back to myself. I had to learn all that, as you were
That's
saying
a
to
bit
me.
like the Alchemist, Paulo Coelho's the boy that goes on the journey to discover the gold was right under his feet all along,
Ah,
right? But he had to
it
take the
is.
journey,
Yeah, it's like there's no place like home. Yeah, you're
right?
already there.
Right.
But you can't see that perspective and have that point,
Correct.
unless you go through all those other things.
Yeah.
And so that I would say that's
Mm.
been unexpected, but in a delightful way. And now
Nice.
I feel like, okay, this is what I was meant to feel like and be like and be doing. And so that feels really good. So to
That's
return back
great.
to me,
That's
I'm
re
still me. So that's, you don't want to lose yourself. And I've clung on, and I'm more me than I've ever been. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think you're lucky because you did recognize it earlier on when you're in your corporate career. But a lot of
Yeah.
women, they do lose themselves in that, with lots of different reasons. And it is about just
Yeah.
breathe, come back to you. Let's find you again. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Hello.
Or yeah, exactly, doing things that make you happy and light you
Right.
up, and you aren't your kids, you aren't your spouse, you aren't your job, and making space for that. That's the other thing too. Not just rushing through your life, but you have to sit, and sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable at first, but sit and be quiet, and like you said, return to yourself. Then the stuff will come to you. The you know your voice again will come to you. So
Yeah. So what's one piece of advice that you wish you'd gotten earlier in your journey?
for me, it's just don't listen and don't put weight on everyone else's point of view about what and who you are. And as a kid, I think growing up, you have all these adults around you, and then as you go through your career, you have just different societal and cultural.
Peers, family, professors, teachers, friends.
And now I when someone shares something with me that maybe doesn't resonate with me or isn't aligned with me, I appreciate that they're at a place where that is true for them, but it's not true for me. And I know how to do that now. I
Right.
didn't know how to do that as a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, not listen. I would just say, to anyone, you don't have to listen. Yes, hear them, but it doesn't mean you have to listen and take it in,
Right.
and that's been a big lesson for me. And I exercise that now on a regular basis. So, because you could get unwanted advice from anyone, at any given point. So, um, again, it was like you were saying earlier, trust yourself. You don't need someone else to tell you. Now, if you go seeking advice, you get a coach or a friend or whatever. That's
Yeah.
one. But otherwise,
That's
you know what to do. So
yeah.
listen to
Yes.
yourself.
And a coach is not there to give you the answers. You have the answers. A life coach is there to say, to help you with the tools and techniques so that you can find your own answers.
Exactly.
And you can
Exactly.
find your own identity and take the next steps and blah. Yes. So, okay. So final question. So what do you hope your story will inspire in other women who are listening
Yeah,
today?
I hope so too. I hope so too.
So any last message?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think it's mine is a story, obviously, as we were talking, an empath and a highly sensitive person, but really this finding a way to come back to yourself applies to anyone and everyone, right? And as we're saying, finding your voice and grounding yourself in your own life. You're here living this life for a reason, and it's to have the perspective through your eyes and your heart, and remember that, and that no one else can take that from you. You have more power than you think you do.
Oh,
And,
yes.
and so dig in and find that, and then start. And the more you live as yourself, actually the things around you, and I hope you've seen this too, they rearrange themselves in your life, to support that versus you continuing to shrink in your own life. So, blossom and bloom and grow, and then your life will fall into place
Love it.
around it, and the scenery will change. So, in such a good way.
Oh, love it. That's a great ending. So a million thanks to Melissa for joining me today. Thanks to our audience for hanging out with us. We hope you found it inspiring and empowering. And if you're looking for a life coach, here's Melissa. If you're looking to tap into those, what is an empath and why do I think I'm an empath, then Melissa's the one to talk to. But we're both life coaches and we can help you on this journey of life changes. So we're going to say goodbye. So it's bye-bye from me and bye-bye from Melissa. Until next time, bye-bye.